You don't start the adventure because you feel ready. You feel ready because you started the adventure. Readiness is not the ticket you need at the door. It's the thing they hand you on the way in.
The steady path, keep it moving slow. Every step you take is the way you grow. Take the steady path, let the rhythm guide. One step at a time to the other side.
In 1985, a gang of kids in Oregon climbed into an attic, found a 350-year-old pirate map, and did the one thing every sensible adult would have told them not to do. They believed it. The Goonies, directed by Richard Donner in 1985, from a story by a young fellow you may have heard of called Steven Spielberg. If you were a kid in the 70s or 80s, this film's basically wired into your DNA. Here's the setup. A gang of misfit kids, the self-styled Goonies, are about to lose their homes. The bank is foreclosing, the bulldozers are warming up, and every sensible adult in town has accepted that it's over. Pack up, move on. Then, up in the attic, the kids find a map. A proper, ye olde, crinkly pirate treasure map, pointing to the lost fortune of a buccaneer with the magnificent name of One-Eyed Willie. The adults have accepted the ending. The kids decide to look for another one. So they go into the basement of the old lighthouse lounge, through the fireplace and down into the tunnels beneath the town, past all the booby traps, the piano of bones, and down the water slide with the Fratellis close behind. They're not fearless. They keep moving because they believe there is something worth finding at the end of it. And when the whole adventure seems impossible, they have 4 words they say to each other and to us. Goonies never say die. It's not really about dying, it means refusing to give up on a possibility simply because everyone else has dismissed it. And that's where today's episode begins, planning your adventure and why belief has to come first. Because you'll never plan a journey you've already decided is impossible. A map is just an old piece of paper until somebody believes it might lead somewhere. Here's the thing we get backwards. We think planning comes first and believing is a nice to have, a bit of positive thinking fairy dust you sprinkle on top if there's time. It's the other way round. A plan is just belief with a to-do list attached. Nobody saves for a home they're certain they'll never afford. Nobody starts the business, writes the book, changes career, or books the once-in-a-lifetime trip unless some quiet part of them has first decided it's actually possible. The believing is the ignition. The plan is only the engine. And an engine with no ignition just sits there, looking sensible on the driveway. Napoleon Hill put it into one line back in 1937 in a book called Think and Grow Rich. He said, "Whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve." Now, that line has been printed on so many mugs and motivational posters that it's very nearly worn out. But slow it down, because it isn't a slogan, it's a sequence. Conceive, believe, achieve. In that order and in no other. You have to be able to picture the thing before you can believe in it. You have to believe in it before you'll ever do the work. And here's what I notice. Most of the people I sit down with are not stuck at the achieving. They're stuck right back at step 1. They've never actually let themselves picture it. Because when people finally do sit down to plan something that matters, the plan is rarely the hard part. The sums are usually quite friendly. The thing that had them stuck for 15 years was almost never the arithmetic. It was that somewhere along the way, they'd quietly decided the adventure wasn't for them. And that treasure maps are for other people. The Goonies' great trick isn't bravery, it's that they never got the memo marked, be realistic, which a lot of the time is just a tidier way of saying, want less. And there's a song that says all of this better than I can. The Whole of the Moon by the Waterboys, 1985. I pictured a rainbow, you held it in your hands. And then, later, the line that's the whole point. I saw the crescent, you saw the whole of the moon. That's a man talking to somebody who simply saw further than he did. He caught a thin sliver of light and assumed that's all that there was. They looked at exactly the same sky and somehow took in the entire moon. Not because their eyes were better, because they knew the rest of it was up there, whether they could see it or not. And that's the difference we're circling today. It's not talent, not luck, it's vision. The nerve to believe there's a whole moon up there on the nights you can only see a sliver of it. Okay, believing the treasure is real is one thing, believing it might be yours to find is another. Which brings me to Willow, 1988. Ron Howard directing, George Lucas cooking up the story. Willow Ufgood, a kind hearted farmer and a very amateur sorcerer who's handed the enormous job of protecting a baby and somewhere along the way saving the world. And Willow does not for one second think he's the man for it. He's tired, he's out of his depth, he's about 3.5 feet tall in a world of towering warriors, monsters, and sorcerers. Not that size has anything to do with it. And he keeps waiting to feel qualified. There's a lovely moment in the film where the old sorcerer, the High Aldwin, holds up his hand and asks Willow where the power to control the world really lives, which finger. And Willow's first instinct is to raise his own finger, his own hand. But he doesn't trust it. He hesitates, and he points at one of the High Aldwin's fingers instead, and gets it wrong. And afterwards, the old man tells him the truth. His first instinct had been right all along. The power was in his own finger. It was never anywhere else. He just didn't quite believe it was his to use. And most of us are Willow. Not the villain, not the chosen one, not the swashbuckling Mad Mardigan having all the fun. We are the competent, doubtful little farmer standing at the edge of something big, waiting to feel ready. And here's the good news, and it really is good news. You don't start the adventure because you feel ready. You feel ready because you started the adventure. Readiness is not the ticket you need at the door. It's the thing they hand you on the way in. Of course, every good adventure has the bit in the middle where it all seems impossible, where the map stops making sense and the walls keep moving, and nobody ever filmed that better than Jim Henson in Labyrinth, 1986, David Bowie as Jareth, the Goblin King, all hair, all cheekbones, and frankly alarming trousers, and a young Jennifer Connelly as Sarah, who has to cross an impossible maze to win back her baby brother. And the maze cheats. The paths rearrange themselves. The helpful characters turn out to not be that helpful at all. Nothing is where it was a moment ago. Which, if you've ever tried to plan anything real across a few decades of actual life, will sound extremely familiar. But look at how Sarah actually wins. Not with a sword, not by outmuscling anybody. She works out right at the end, standing in front of him, that the Goblin King only ever had exactly as much power over her as she agreed to give him. And she says the line that brings the whole castle down. You have no power over me. And the castle falls. Not because she beat him, because she stopped believing in him. And this, I think, is the bit that really matters. Because it's the other face of everything we've been saying. We've spent this whole episode talking about belief as though it's something you have to go out and find. It isn't. You are already believing in something. Every single one of us is. Some people are believing in the treasure, and an awful lot of people, good people, clever people, people who are marvellous at their jobs, are quietly believing in the Goblin King, in people like us don't, or in, I've left it too late, in what if it all goes wrong? So the question was never whether you believe, you do. The only question is what you've chosen to believe in. And that, unlike almost everything else in this life, is genuinely yours to change. Now, at this point, you might expect the Stoics to be the wet blankets in the room. All that talk of accepting your fate. Surely they'd tell the Goonies to stay at home and sort of update their contents insurance. But no, the Stoics were the ultimate realists. And they're dead clear on this. The daring comes first. Seneca put it perfectly. It is not because things are difficult that we do not dare. It is because we do not dare that they are difficult. Read that one twice. It isn't the difficulty that stops us daring. It's the not daring that makes the whole thing feel so difficult in the first place. And Marcus Aurelius, running an actual empire, so not a man short of obstacles, kept reminding himself of something almost identical. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. The obstacle isn't blocking the path. On a good day, the obstacle is the path. And for the least stoic, most romantic version of that same idea, we turn to the mountaineer W.H. Murray, drawing on a line he attributed to Goethe. It belongs on every treasure map ever drawn. Whatever you can do, or dream you can, begin it. Boldness has genius, power, and magic in it. Begin it, that's the whole trick. Not finish it, not master it, not have it all worked out and stress tested and beautifully spreadsheeted before you're allowed to take a single step. Just begin it and watch how much of the difficulty turns out to have been fear, wearing a very big hat. So, you believe the treasure's real, you've decided you're allowed to go and get it, you've told the Goblin King exactly where to stick it. Now you need a plan. And nobody plans a daft, glorious, against the odds adventure better than the crew in The Princess Bride. Rob Reiner, 1987, from William Goldman's wonderful book. Think about the final act. Wesley, Inigo, and Fessig have to storm an entire castle. And what have they got? One giant, one revenge-fueled swordsman, and a hero who is, at best, only mostly alive. A wheelbarrow and a flammable cloak. The odds are, to use the technical term, inconceivable! And what does Miracle Max shout after them as they go? Have fun storming the castle! They don't wait for the perfect conditions. They don't wait until the giant is better rested or the hero is fully alive. They believe. They build a plan out of what's actually in the shed. And they go! Because here's the thing I want to be very straight about. Belief on its own is not enough. Belief on its own is just a wish. And a wish will get you precisely nowhere. What turns a wish into treasure is a plan, a first step, and somebody willing to push the wheelbarrow. Nick Murray, in a book called Simple Wealth, Inevitable Wealth, makes a point that sounds almost spiritual for a book about investing. Long-term investing, he says, is fundamentally an act of faith. You're committing to a plan whose happy ending you cannot yet see. And then, and this is the hard bit, this is the bit that separates people, you hold your nerve through the dark tunnels and the frightening bits because you believe in where the map leads. Believing and planning are not opposites. They're two people in the wheelbarrow. Now, let me tell you what I actually think, because I'd rather give you my own view than keep handing you other people's. In all the years I've sat across a table from people and talked about their money, I've almost never met somebody whose real problem was the arithmetic. Not once has the sum been the thing standing in the way. What I meet over and over is somebody who was told quite gently, quite early, usually by somebody who loved them, that people like us don't get to want things like that. And they believed it. And they've been quietly living the smaller version of their life ever since. So here's my honest opinion, and it's not the fashionable one in my profession. The highest return thing I ever do for anybody is not the fun choice. It's not the tax wrapper. Isn't even the clever bit of planning that I'm rather proud of. It's the moment somebody finally lets themselves say out loud what they actually want. Everything after that's admin. Good admin. Important admin. Admin I happen to be very good at, but it's admin. The believing is the work. One more song, again from 1985, before the practical bit. Take On Me by a-ha. Now forget the song for a second and picture the video, because everybody remembers the video. That gorgeous pencil sketch world, an ordinary girl in an ordinary cafe, reading a comic, and a hand comes out of the page towards her, and she takes it. Just sit with what she has to believe in order to take that hand. She has to believe in a world that by every sensible measure does not exist. Nobody else in that cafe can see it. There's no evidence. There's only a drawing and an invitation and a decision. And the adventure was on the page the whole time. It only became real the moment she reached back. And the title, when you think about it, is the whole invitation, isn't it? Take me on. Take on the adventure. Right, three things, because if I give you 10, you'll storm precisely no castles and feel guilty about all of them. Number one, name the treasure. Get specific about what you're actually questing for. Be comfortable one day is a fog, and you cannot plan your way towards a fog. Mortgage gone by 60 and 3 months a year with the grandchildren? Now, that's a treasure. That you can draw a map to. Number two, draw the map and take the very first step this week. The Goonies didn't survey the entire tunnel network before they set off. They took the next passage. You don't need the whole plan. You need the next honest move. The meeting booked, the account opened, the first slightly awkward conversation actually had. Number three, say it out loud. A belief you keep to yourself stays a daydream. A belief you say out loud to one real person quietly becomes a commitment. Goonies never say die, only works because they shout it together. So tell somebody your treasure out loud and watch what it does. So name it, map it, say it. Because the map has been up in the attic the whole time. Today might just be the day somebody decides it's real. One question for the week, just the one, because a good adventurer travels light. Ask yourself, what's the adventure I've quietly decided is not for me? And what if I'm simply wrong about that? Not the sensible version, not the shrunk down, already negotiated with yourself version, the real one. The map you saw once, believed in for a moment, and then folded up and put it back in the attic because a grown up voice, quite possibly your own, told you to be realistic. Because here's the quiet secret of every good life I've ever watched up close. The treasure was real, the map was real, and the only thing that ever stood between the two was a person deciding to believe it long enough to take the first step. Conceive it, believe it, and then steadily, patiently, one passage at a time, go and achieve it. Believe the map, draw the map, and walk towards the treasure. Thank you for listening to episode 7 of The Steady Path. Next time, we slow the adventure right down and talk about the one thing no treasure map can give you, being properly here for the bit of life that's actually happening. It's called time, attention, and the art of presence. We'll head out to a cornfield in Iowa with Field of Dreams and a dad and a game of catch and ask why, if you build it, he will come, might be the most quietly devastating line in all of cinema. And I'll leave you with the question we'll be sitting with next time. Just carry it around with you this week. Where am I when I'm with the people I love? Until next time, slow down, think clearly, and keep walking your steady path. I'm Paul Cleworth. Thanks for listening.
Turning back, just keep moving on the track. Take the steady path, keep it moving slow. Every step